welcome back to my channel, and today I'm talking about refilling the creative well. So the idea of a fallow period is not very new for writers, but just in case you haven't heard of what this means, it's pretty much the time between you finishing your last project and starting your new project where you do absolutely no writing. And this comes from the concept of fallow fields. So when the plants have all been harvested, there's a period of time where they have to allow the fields to like reabsorb nutrients before they can plant new crops. And that's what this fallow period is, both for plants and for writers. So as soon as I was introduced to this concept of a fallow period, it helped me reassess those times where I'm not writing. Because if I'm being completely honest, I felt guilty. I felt like if I wasn't constantly writing, then I wasn't really working my hardest towards my goal of getting published. However, this is not true, because as a creative, we do need to refill our creative well in order to write the best stories that we can. So as someone who just finished doing third pass pages on Vicious Spirits, my sequel to Wicked Fox, and I'm thinking about what I'm going to write next. So let me tell you about some things that I do to refill my creative well during these fallow periods. The first thing I do is I let myself read all of the books that I wanted to read on my TBR that I couldn't read because I was so busy revising. This is great because it allows you to kind of refill your brain with stories that didn't come from your brain. It's nice to be able to be entertained by stories again and to understand like why you love storytelling, and also to be amazed by the wonderful stories and plots that other authors have come up with. The other thing I let myself do is watch all the shows that I didn't let myself watch while I was revising. I don't have a complete like no watching anything while I'm revising rule, but I definitely watch a lot less shows because I'm trying to spend as much of my time revising the book instead of binge watching things on Hulu or Netflix. So I let myself watch as many shows as I wanted to watch and missed out on while I was drafting or revising, because those are stories too, and they're inspiring too, and also they're entertaining, and I deserve a present for finishing the last book that I wrote. I also try to do other creative activities. One of the things I really got into was bookstagramming, or just taking photographs in general. I do want to get into drawing or sketching, as well as knitting and cross-stitching. So I do try to do other creative activities because they use a different part of your brain, even though it's still a creative task. And it kind of just like stretches your creative brain, like you're exercising it. I try to do activities that will also kind of organize my thoughts, because my thoughts are really jumbled after I'm finished with a revision. There were so many moving parts and pieces that I had to work with that I'm kind of like burnt out. So I do try to do things like bullet journaling in order to like kind of get back into the groove of being organized in how I'm thinking about my tasks that I'm doing, even though I am also trying to let myself relax more. I also do want to have a place to kind of put all of my creative or brainstorm ideas that I have, even though if they're just seeds and haven't like grown into full ideas. And in order to do that, I also do long form journaling, and oftentimes I will create a document, especially if the idea I have is definitely a story idea. I want to write that down in a document to be used for a future story. So I have a document that I have on my computer that's just called Ideas and Brainstorming that I go back to every once in a while, especially when I'm starting a new project. I also like to reread some of my old work, even if it's just a chapter from something or a short story or something like that, just to remind myself what I loved about writing and to just kind of reinvigorate myself with that love of writing again. In the same vein, I also like to reread old childhood favorites and just remind myself why those stories caught my imagination as a kid and why they made me want to write my own books one day. And that's a really great way also to kind of just re-explore the different layers of storytelling, especially if there's a book that you've read over and over and over again, then you're probably more able to see the different layers that went into creating it. Sometimes I think it's good to go on like long walks. For some people, this also includes long drives, just to kind of like be alone with your thoughts. I know some people really like to take long hot showers, so like anything that just allows you to be alone with your thoughts, like if you like gardening or if you like doing something like that, that just allows you to think through things and have meandering thoughts. And then maybe also just make sure you have a voice recorder or a pad next to you so you can record yourself talking things out or write it down. And the final thing that I think has been really helpful for people that I know and that some people tend to dismiss is playing video games, especially long form video games. They have amazing narratives and they have amazing stories and they're so inspiring. And for you to be able to literally be in the action as your avatar in the story, like makes it really exciting and much more personal to you. So I definitely encourage anyone who has writer's block or is trying to refill their creative well to try to play video games, because it's actually a different form of storytelling, so it might unlock something that has been stuck in your brain for a while. So the idea with most of the things I'm doing is to kind of get my brain to a point where I can write again. So a lot of them do kind of intersect with creativity, but I do think that in a lot of ways, allowing your brain to rest and relax is a really good way to refill your creative well. Another thing is that I do still let myself write while I'm having these fallow periods. Like, it's not a rule that you definitely cannot write anything new. It's just that I don't set any deadlines for myself. I don't set any like strict goals for myself. I just let myself have fun. And a lot of the things that come out during these fallow periods are really organic, really just all about my internal feelings, my internal thoughts and emotions at the time. And then it helps me kind of realize how to bring my stories to a more personal place once I go back to actually drafting and revising my books again. My really good friend Nafisa Azad, who is the author of The Candle and the Flame, put this in a really good context. She studied biology for a while and she said it's like fungi. So I guess like for fungus, there is like this absorption period where all they do is they look from the outside like they're lying dormant, but really they're absorbing all of these nutrients. And then once they're ready, they bloom into a big gigantic mushroom, and so it's called the absorption period, and that's what she calls these fallow periods. And I thought it was like a really fun and interesting analogy, especially since it came from a really personal place for her because she studied biology. So I really like the idea that even though it looks from the outside like we're sitting and doing nothing and just binging Netflix or like reading books or writing in our diaries, that what we're actually doing is we're absorbing as much of the world and experiences and nutrients as we can in order to fold those into our future stories. Okay, so those are my quick tips and tricks about how to refill your creative well. They can also be used to try to combat writer's block if you just like want to spend one day doing one of these tasks. But hopefully this was helpful to you. If you have any comments or questions, you can put them down below, or you can tweet at me at @catshow. And if you like this video, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up or a subscription to this channel, and I will see everybody next time. Bye!